Forsaken Frontiers is the newest entry for horror extraction gaming, and as someone who's had the privilege to try it out during the closed beta, I wanted to share this guide to help people understand how the game works before its public release on October 21st. I'll also be live streaming the final playtest for the game starting this weekend on September 28th, so follow me on Twitch to check the game out for yourself. So what is Forsaken Frontiers? Forsaken Frontiers is a cooperative analog horror game that takes place in post-Cataclysm America, where you and your friends must survive the looming threats of each desolate environment while paying off your ever-increasing debt, which isn't much different from the average story for someone living in the United States, but in this game, you can play with up to 12 players, each level is procedurally generated, and the combination of PSX-inspired graphics, volumetric audio, and proximity voice chat allow for an immersive gaming experience that I believe is worth an addition to everyone's Steam library. You start the game aboard a train that serves as your home base for the duration of your playthrough, and your goal is to pay off your debt before the deadline by collecting loot from the different locations available to you. The debt will increase at the start of each new deadline, every time someone dies, and whenever you decide to go to a map that you can't afford outright, and it is up to you and your crew to pay off your debt no matter what. The game typically ends when you fail to meet your debt quota, but that depends on when you fail and what game mode you're playing on, which we'll get into later. Before that though, it's important to know how the dollar amounts work in this game. The debt screen on the train adds 2 extra zeros to your actual dollar amount, so if you owe $14,000 in debt, you only need $140 worth of loot to pay it off. I bring this up because the game doesn't tell you this anywhere, so when I saw the $5,000 debt for my first ever deadline, I thought paying off the debt would be impossible, when in reality, I only needed $50 worth of loot to do so. So don't let that big debt number scare you, at least in this video game. Forsaken Frontiers has a handful of maps that you can go to with varying levels of danger and loot density. The Metro is the intended starter map and the only one you can afford outright on day one. The Hotel is the next level up. The Hospital was the endgame map in the previous playtest, and the public release of the game will also include the Tunnels to serve as the next tier up from the Hospital. There is also one additional location that only becomes available to you the first time you fail to pay off your debt, and it serves as a last chance opportunity for your team to keep the run going. It's the most dangerous and loot dense map in the game, which makes it a perfect wildcard that can either bring your run back or end it in the most chaotic way possible. But I'll let you discover what that location is for yourself, since it's kinda cool to find that out on your own. The travel fee for each map is listed on the TV screen, and if you can't afford the travel fee for a certain location, you have the option to incur additional debt to go there anyway. The game encourages you to go to different locations since repeat visits lower the remaining loot value of the map, but as long as you're alternating locations, you should be able to go to each one at a near 100% value every time. The public release will also include map modifiers that can affect each location, but I'll be learning more about those during the final playtest this weekend. When you load into a map, you'll want to start looking for loot to bring back with you to pay off your debt. Loot will be highlighted in whatever color you picked during your character customization process, and unlike other games in the genre, there is no limit to how much loot you can hold at a time. You can check how much loot you have and what time it is by pressing tab to pull up your tablet. And it's important to do this since the train will leave on its own at midnight. The train will warn you by blaring its horn at 6 p.m. and every 2 hours after that to signal to all the crew members that it might be time to start heading back to the train. And there are 2 ways to head back to the train. The first is to just go back the way you came from, but I don't recommend that since you'll often find yourself making deep treks into the map, so backtracking is not only boring since you're unlikely to encounter loot, monsters, or other party members by doing so, but it's also super inefficient compared to the alternative. The other way to head back is to find an elevator, since those will take you all the way back to the train station. Each map spawns a handful of elevators, so there's really no reason to backtrack when this option is much stronger. I've personally found as many as 6 elevators in a single day, so there shouldn't be any shortage of elevators, so long as you're willing to continue progressing into the map. Which brings me to the next segment. monster encounters. I won't go into the specifics of each monster so that people who want to figure out how they work for themselves will have the opportunity to do so, but I do want to go over the basic mechanics that are available to you that might not be as intuitive for a first-time player. The first one is the breath mechanic, which will tell you if a monster is near you in the first place. If your character starts breathing out loud, that means a monster is within earshot of you. All the monsters in the game react to sound, so if your character is breathing, then that means sound actions are likely to bring those monsters to you. The only actions that don't make sound are crouch walking, looting, and proximity chat, but that is only at the time of recording and subject to change in the future. When presented with a monster, you have the options to run, hide, or fight back. You can outrun all the enemies in the game, but your limited stamina means they will eventually catch up to you, and other monsters might aggro on you in the process. If you want to hide, you can hide under desks or inside toppled vending machines, and as long as a monster doesn't see you go into hiding, then they will not aggro on you while you're in that hiding space. But if you're running out of stamina and hiding isn't an option, you can use the game's door mechanics to buy yourself more time. You can close and lock doors, which will force monsters to spend time kicking it down, or you can slam the door in the monster's face to temporarily stun them. Each enemy also has its own individual mechanics and counterplay that I'll go over in a separate video, but these fundamental ones here should equip you with enough knowledge to figure out what those are for yourself. So let's say you survived your monster encounters and found your way back to the train. While you're there, you can check your team's status on the monitor next to your debt amount. Forsaken Frontiers has 4 different health states: healthy, injured, downed, and dead. There are a few ways to reach the injured state and the handful of variations of the downed state, so without spoiling the causes, I'll at least go over what each one means and how to deal with them. When you are injured, your vision is slightly impaired, your movement is hindered, and you leave a blood trail wherever you go. You don't make any additional detectable noises, but it will be harder to outrun enemies in this state. The only way to return to a healthy state is to use a medkit, which you can buy from the train. You can either use a medkit on yourself or have a teammate use theirs on you. When you enter the downed state, nearby teammates can see your aura the moment you get downed. The aura only flashes temporarily, but you can ping your location again by calling for help while you're downed. Teammates that find you can pick you back up and you'll recover into the injured state. But if you go down while in this specific injured state, then you will die for good. So if you want to postpone your death, make sure to use a medkit to heal yourself back up to full, since doing so will reset your health states and give you the option to get downed again if things go wrong. If there's no one around to revive you, you have 2 options. You can either use an adrenaline from the store to pick yourself back up, or you can give up and just spectate for the rest of the match. Only one of the down states has a bleed out timer, so if no one is around to pick you up, then you might find yourself crawling around until the day ends. And since the days are long, I found it more fun to just spectate my friends than to wait around where nothing's going on. That said, if I happened to have gone down near an opened elevator, it's a viable strategy to crawl into that elevator and wait there, since someone using any elevator will call every elevator on the map and bring whoever's in them to the train station. So this can be a good way to regroup with your team if you've gone out and down all on your own. If you do die though, you will drop your backpack as well as whatever store items you had with you. So if your teammates end up finding your body, they will be able to bring back all your loot and equipment in your stead. Once you leave for the day, you'll have an opportunity to sell your loot. To sell your loot, drop it off in the collection bin in the back of the train and click the sell button when you're ready to do so. You might not want to sell right away depending on the percentage shown above the bin, which will increase with each passing day of the deadline. You can hold all your loot in the collection bin until you're ready to sell, but if your team wipes while there's loot in there, then you will lose all your unsold loot. When you do have some money, you should consider buying some of the store items that are available for purchase, and you should check for discounts with each passing day. I'll make a more in-depth equipment guide in a future video, but for now, I'll give a quick rundown on each item available in the store. The flashlight and lantern serve as light sources, walkie-talkies let you communicate with teammates who have them, medkits can heal you from the injured state, adrenaline can pick you up from the dying state or give you infinite stamina for a limited time, bolt cutters let you open locked doors without making noise, and pagers will help you locate nearby elevators. However, unlike loot where you have unlimited space in your backpack, You can only carry up to 4 store items with you at a time, so choose your loadouts wisely. Bringing all these elements together makes up the satisfying gameplay loop that I got to experience during the Forsaken Frontiers playtest, and the public release will have so much more to offer for everyone who gives it a chance. The playtest only had the endless game mode, but the Steam store page says the game will also have a story mode with different endings depending on your performance, a nightmare mode intended for those seeking a more difficult challenge, and the latest patch notes in the Made in Fairyland Discord shared the addition of an escape game mode that I'll get to test in the final beta. The team also has plans to release more maps, enemies, game modes, and cosmetics after the initial launch at no extra cost, and with how well they've handled what I've experienced so far, I can only be excited for what they have in store. So if you're as excited for the game as I am, or at least curious enough to try it out, go wishlist the game on Steam using the link below, or catch one of my streams this weekend where I'll be playing in the final playtest. For the record, I wasn't sponsored or anything to make this video or any of my upcoming videos. I'm just excited to push a game that I really enjoyed in the hopes that other people out there will like it too. I have a lot more Forsaken Frontiers content planned leading up to the official release on October 21st, so if you want to keep up with them, then subscribe to the channel here, follow me on Twitch, and join the Made in Fairyland Discord in the video description below. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you out on the Forsaken Frontiers soon.